alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters, dear friends. Jazakallah here for tuning in to the Wahda podcast. If you haven't already followed us on Instagram and Twitter, please do so at team_Wahda, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. This podcast is available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Jazakallah here for tuning in to episode 5 of the Wahda podcast. Today we have our usual lineup and a guest. I would say special, but I wouldn't say that special. Brother Idris. How you doing, bro? You alright?
How about yourself?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So how you lot been doing, man? Lockdown, quarantine. How have you been holding up since last
Everything's
time?
good, man.
What you been doing to occupy time?
Praying mostly, Quran and stuff.
Schoolwork.
Been watching any TV shows, Hashim? Last time you were watching something?
Yeah, you know me and the Ottomans, innit?
Yeah. That's good, Masha. That's good. Yeah, man. Okay. So without further ado, let's get started, man. Today, inshallah, we're gonna talk about masculinity. So I'm gonna ask each of you, what is a man? What do you define as a man? Okay, Idris, what do you think of what is a man? What is your definition of a man?
Personally, I believe that the definition of a man is actually very subjective. I think it's due to experiences or cultures, and how you've been brought up, how you may define a man. But I believe, but obviously the best example is from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And so, from my personal point of view, I believe a man is someone who provides.
Yeah, I agree.
So a provider, basically, and like a protector. So a man provides and protects, and also one thing about a man is that a man, like,
at the end of the day, it's quite subjective, and the only objective way we can measure this is by looking at the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his character. And so a man is someone like that you don't want to leave from, someone that you feel safe around, someone that you feel secure around. And when someone embodies the prophetic character, then that's when they become a man.
Yeah, 100%. But I think Idris, you were saying something about being a man's also about where you're from and where, like, your culture, etc. I think that's a good point, because nowadays, if you look at society, particularly in the West, if you look at the definition of what a man is, it's quite different to, for example, Pakistan, Nigeria, for example, where the idea of a man is much more different, where it is more of a provider, where it's more of a, protector, that sort of thing, quite a classic and more prophetic definition of a man, where nowadays, if you look in more Western liberal perspectives, a man is someone who's, of course, men should show feelings to an extent as well, but there's much more of an acceptance for being not feminine, but showing more feminine traits, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Hashim, what do you think then? What's your opinion on a man? What is a man to you?
My opinion on a man is basically someone, as Idris Church, someone who's a protector, someone who provides for his family. For example, if you have children or if you have brothers and sisters, therefore you have to be a provider. I look at a man as someone who helps other people, helps poor people.
Yeah.
And also you have to look at someone who is, you have to look at a leader. Like, I look at a man as a leader, someone who is the front line in anything, and just shows that presence of being. Because for me, a man has to show presence. Because when I look at a man, I look at, he's got to show that his physical and mental presence is there, and he's the one where everything's down or anything's down, the one where you have to pick it back up and you have to go again, and the one that gives the best advice and everything. I feel like you got to show your presence, you got to show your qualities, and just stick by them and in the best way you can. And I think that's what I define as a man.
Would you say that there's, for me, one thing that's really important that makes you a man is your submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For
Yep.
me, I think that's how you mature for me. The way you, not just by submitting, but in the way you do. So for me, Islam's a big way you become a man for me. In terms of that transition, what is it like? There's always this argument, this discussion of what's the difference between a man. What is the difference? Is it in terms of the physical, the biological, or more intellectual changes?
Yeah,
You know?
thing is, between a boy and a man, I'd say people look at as a boy as being a young sort of person, someone who is not
Immature?
immature. Sometimes people consider as less knowledgeable because obviously you have to realize with a young boy, sometimes they don't go through things that a man has gone through. So they might go through different circumstances that a man hasn't been through. So, for example, you could go through, for example, a boy wouldn't go through having children because he wouldn't get to that stage where he's got to develop that, and, for example, hasn't had tests that could be severe. For example, needing
Yeah.
money. So, for example, you look at a boy, uh, their needs depend on their mother and father. So you could say that, and also like
Okay.
sacrifice as well. So, how much has a man done towards his people, his family? Yeah. Whereas you look at a boy, it's more regarding the the higher level of a male.
But you talked about what a male man goes
Yeah.
through, Hashim. Do you think this is why? I think for me, like that's why in a lot of cultures you have like rites of passage.
The thing is,
So where you have to go through something to become a man, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
The thing is, like, don't get me wrong. Like, a boy can easily go through certain emotions. For example, when you go through your teenage years, you're always going to surf through different
Yes.
emotions. You go through different stuff in your life. In terms of love, you can get that as well, and
Yeah. Does it make you more of a man to think about to have certain emotions? So for example, if one person is they can be the same age, one person's more they wear their heart on the
yeah.
sleeve more, if that makes sense. They're quite visible in terms of their emotions, whereas one person's more reserved. Which one would you say to your understanding what a man is more of a man? Is there an idea of more of a man? Can you be more of a man?
In terms of that, obviously, Yusuf said that's a bit subjective because some people say that, for example, you can wear your heart on your sleeve, you can be courageous, lion mentality, you can have that sort of like, I'm gonna be the one,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be the most brave, gonna be the most courageous, or you have some
Yeah.
mans that they're a bit like what's the word? They're a bit struck off, so they want to keep a bit low key, they want to keep a bit quiet, they want to keep
Conserved.
themselves considerate.
Sorry,
Yeah, they want
reserved.
to
Yeah.
keep themselves reserved, and that's where they feel like they they need to be. So, for example, they might not do certain things that other people do. They might work in different sort of ways. For example, they may enjoy different things that people associate with a man don't. So, for example, people when they associate a man doing things, obviously is working, providing, going out there and doing certain things, whereas they may be doing different things. For example, um, uh, games and
Yeah.
stuff, or that's them sort of things.
Okay. Yeah. Anything to add,
Yeah.
Idris?
So I think the difference between a boy and a man is, yeah, like for example, let's say you're walking. So let's say you're walking in like in a street or something, and someone bumps
Yeah.
into you. I think a boy
Yeah.
is someone who will react and in a way of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fight you or fight me, something like that.
Be quite
Yeah,
confrontational.
and then a man is someone who's just gonna brush that off, and like a man is someone who's gonna set an example and lead, whereas a boy is someone who's just gonna follow. And one
Yeah.
big thing I think, yeah, is that a boy is someone who plays with women or girls, and a man is someone who respects women. So,
More appreciative of
yeah.
everything. Yeah, this is a good point you've made, man, about in particular how we treat women in terms of that sense,
Yeah.
how you become a man.
Then I feel boys are the ones who like regardless of your age, if you
you can be 40 years old and still be a boy, in my opinion, in terms of the attitude to life.
I think the most important thing, in my opinion, is how you treat other people, and especially
the character.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I think humbleness is definitely something which a man collects. I think humbleness, being grateful for everything you have, making sure that you're good to other people, that is something I feel like that has 100%. Manly qualities. When you're a boy, I'm not trying to like opinionate boys. I'm just saying, when you're a boy, you have certain agendas to something. For example, you'll say something and you won't know what's going through your head because it's in the heat of the moment. Whereas when you go through something, like I say this all the time, when you go through something in your early stages, middle stages, or later stages, you pick that up and you start to be reserved about it. So if you talk about something that has had a consequence from before, then you know what I mean, you're going to be a bit hesitant in your later future because you're going to think to yourself, maybe you shouldn't have said that. That's why I feel like the man picks that up. You sense that sort of humbleness, that considerate being, whereas a boy is going to be a bit pecky, talkative, a bit loud. Some people say a bit cocky and stuff, you know what I mean? Just because their certain brain hasn't developed in that sort of way where they've learned and experienced. And I think learning and experience, for me, is what separates a boy and a man. Learning and experience. I think, because people, when they talk about man, they talk about experience. What has a boy not got that a man does have? Experience and learning. 100%. So that's what I look at.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, Arsham. It leads back to Idris's point about how men and boys treat women in particular. I think a lot of the time boys treat women in a certain way. A lot of the time, unfortunately, sometimes it can be good, but a lot of the time, it's quite sad to see how our sisters are treated.
Use and abuse, basically. How they use and abuse like a little toy. You use it and
yes, 100%.
Can I add on to your point? Basically,
100%. Go for it.
About a boy being obviously around women and stuff. The thing is, when it comes to a man and how he's around women, for example, if he makes a mistake around a women, they're more likely to highlight that sort of thing. So obviously you have certain problems with men and women when you get older, and there's certain things and they fall out and stuff. Whereas a boy and a girl, it's more like it doesn't. It's more under the blanket. They don't look at it as something that we should be highlighting.
It's more focused on the good and ignore the bad.
That's why I think I agree with Idris. When you're a boy and you do stuff to a girl, you treat women you treat women badly, you're able to do that. There's nothing there that says, "Oh yeah, why are you doing this for? What's the purpose of this?"
But also, I think
when you're a man,
100%, but woman,
then people will question you. Listen, you've got this mentality.
Yes.
Why are you doing this? Surely you got the knowledge and the ability to know the difference between that. So that's what I feel like it's there.
Yeah. For me, I think one thing is I think the difference in this perspective is the way when you look at a way a boy treats a girl, a lot of the time it's the way that people around that boy treat people and women in particular is the way that they kind of, if one person, for example, it's all about role models, and this leads back to Yusuf's point about the main role model being the Prophet ﷺ as like the measurement of what a man is. Because if for example, you've got a boy who's all of his friends are treating women in a bad way, their vocabulary they use in terms of how they treat, like the way they speak of women is very abusive, very bad, then chances are that's going to be the same fate for that boy, isn't it? Whereas if you've got a man's more, doesn't always have to be stubborn, but I think a man's more, they've seen more of the world, if that makes sense, and they're more confident and more able to deal with certain issues.
Like Asham said, it's essentially it's experience, and then
it's about experience. Exactly.
It's about what you do with that experience. If you don't take nothing from the experience, then what's the point in the actual experience?
100%.
There you go. That's it, man. 100%.
And one thing I want to say, like you know how you'd have in in schools, you'd have people who like you'd have boys, who would mess around this and that, and people would like look up to them. Oh yeah, that.
100%.
Then you have the ones who are kind, nice, this and that, who people would think just think that these people are like
wussies.
Yeah, basically. But I
Yeah,
them people are more men than
because
the one who shows more masculine qualities, treats
it's
women
harder
right,
to
is always
control
the guy.
yourself internally, control your anger, control your your negative emotions. It's easy to
Yeah,
beat
exactly.
someone up.
Exactly.
It's easy to
It's easy to
show
express it.
physical strength, but to actually have inner control is much harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Prophet ﷺ said the
Knock others
strongest
down,
person is
but
not the one who can push someone over.
exactly, because
It's the
that's
one
way
who can
harder. If you
control his
try to
anger.
control your anger when you're gain, it's not as easy as flaring out and saying what let's scrap.
Yeah. Exactly
Yeah,
that.
100%.
And it's so weird how now in society it's the complete opposite. The man is the one who shows his anger, and the the weak one is the one who
Forgives.
who contains it. Yeah, forgives. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
It's like,
And which one earns more respect anyway?
This is it.
And if you think about it, you won't get respect by being that kind of person.
Yeah, there's this weird idea nowadays that like you deserve respect. Like people would be demanding respect.
Yeah.
But you haven't earned any respect, if that makes sense.
yeah.
You know? You have to earn your respect.
Carmen, can I touch on something quick?
You know?
Basically,
Yeah, go for it,
I
bro.
want to touch on two things: a legal aspect and an Islamic aspect. I'll go for Islamic first. So when I look at it as Islamic aspect of a man, you look at obviously we touched on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and
So
basically you look at when the Prophet went to give dawah at Taif, and I look at that as when these children, slaves, were pelting stones at the Prophet, and the Prophet still managed to not show anger and not show destruction on them. And even when the angel came to the Prophet and said, listen, we can easily make this place we can destruct it, the Prophet said no. And even in the time of Makkah, when they went for the conquest of Makkah, the Prophet forgave all of them and didn't even like showed mercy. And that's why I feel like those man qualities come in. That's why I feel like a Muslim, when you go for a Muslim man, this is where your qualities look in. Where can I see what the Prophet has done as a reference for myself? So when you look at how can I reference for myself, you look at, listen, you got to be more forgiving, you got to be more merciful, you got to be more protective, you got to have that knowledge of that certain thing to know, listen, let me just conserve myself and not be able to anger myself. Because sometimes when I look at this as silence is the best form of like the best form of like speech, because sometimes when you're a boy and you speak, it doesn't come out the way it should, and it may come out regretful, and it may come out offensive. But whereas if you have that knowledge and that experience of knowing when to speak, then you know how it is. And also from a legal perspective of a man, obviously 18 years of age in this country, you're considered a man. So when you look at anyone who's considered under 18, there's not that they're considered obviously teenagers, boys, you know what I mean, young boys and stuff. And that's where we have a guideline. So you're up until when you're 18, that's when people feel like, listen, he's gonna learn certain things, he's gonna go through certain things. You obviously start work life. You some people have kids at 18, some people have affairs at 18 and stuff. Whereas your boy, it's more like you're slowly going through those past things, and that's why I feel like from a legal aspect, 18 and the age is the gap between the boy and the man.
Yeah, 100%. You talked about something harsh in Muslim men. That's a good segue to what we're gonna try and discuss now, inshallah. That's one thing that nowadays, especially, is quite. I wouldn't say like it's not looked upon enough. What a good Muslim man is. Because if you look at the definition of a good man, you know, like there's a lot of qualities we talked about earlier, and a lot of I've been looking at some of the most frequent qualities in a good man, and it's someone who's responsible, honest, loyal, reliable, compassionate. Are these in association with what it takes to be a good Muslim man, or is there like extra things to take into consideration as well?
I think, like, the Prophet he said that the best of men are those who are best
Families.
to their wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about, you also got to be like respectful towards. Thing is, it's not just towards families and people you know. It's also towards
it's
people
everyone.
you don't know. Because some people believe, because they're not Muslim, I can treat them in any way I want.
That's even worse, because
And
you push them away from.
That's the
I've got
worst,
something
man.
to say about that. I say to Kamil all the time. I said people will never read the Quran. They will never read Hadith. They will only look at how your actions are. So when it comes to a man, when it comes to non-Muslims, for any non-Muslims that are watching, the way for a Muslim man to approach this aspect is to by good actions, make yourself respectful.
But I always tell you, Hashim, man. I always tell you the best form of dawah
100%,
is your manners.
Yeah.
Always.
That will get you far.
You get me? That's it, man. Because if you're treating like Yusuf was trying to say, Yusuf, you got cut off. Were you trying to say something? So yeah, so what's it called? Like, about when you're treating, for example, a person like a person of the book, people of the book, look it up. If you're treating them badly, they're closer. If in a way they're closer to Islam than someone who's like an atheist. So if you're treating them badly, calling kuffar, just doing all this stuff, then that's gonna prevent them from embracing Islam.
And with some people, it's fueling their anger. Some people want you to do that because they want that agenda towards Muslims, where they think to themselves, yeah, he's saying all this stuff to me, he's not doing this right.
They're proving their point, innit?
You're basically giving them an excuse to hate Muslims, and that's the news.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's what I feel like. That's why I touched on experience, manly qualities, experience. You have to know.
Yeah, if you meet a true man,
exactly. You have to know. Listen, these people are here. They may not be here for goodness. They may not be here for kindness. They may be ignorant people. Therefore, just treat them well. Treat them nicely. Treat them well. If they don't want to be ignorant, then you just leave them be. Don't just start anything. Don't just start something for no reason that is going to get you in piles of trouble. And that's why I feel like, as a man, you have to know when to do things and when not to. So that's what I feel like we should touch upon. And key men over the years for me, who I look at as like role models, as Kamil was on about role models.
Yeah, definitely.
Umar ibn Khattab, the Prophet's companion.
Umar.
Yeah, definitely Umar ibn Khattab.
Especially when he was Khalifa.
For me, the Prophet's.
If you read the stories, like,
for me,
it's
the
amazing.
Prophet's companions.
Yeah, when he's Khalifa. Yeah.
For me, the Prophet's companions, they are looked upon as the best of mankind. Like the Prophet says in Hadith, Umar and Abu Bakr are the best of mankind to me. So I look at that as listen, these people, the Prophet's companions, you should follow a lot and look at them as role models. Also, I watch a lot of Rise of the Ottomans, so therefore I look like Mehmed the Conqueror, Mehmed the Fatih, some people call him. I look at him as you watch the way he does things, and also I relate sometimes with men, cleverness. It's always, you have to look at, you got to know when to do things and why you should do it. So when I look,
how you like respond to a situation of adversity.
You have to respond when you're down, and when the things are down. Thing is with a boy is you won't sense that sort of thing. When the things are down, when everything's lost, when you have nothing left, do you really expect like yourself to come back and rise from the ashes? If you don't have that capacity, that heart. That's what I feel like. Sometimes men have that heart. They have that thing that lives inside them that they don't want to give up. I feel like that comes with that man.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you look at, I like sport. You look at boxers, men. They have heart. They go in there. You come in. You want to win. You give everything. You get knocked back down. You come back up, and you show, and you're humble in defeat. And you show that manly quality. That listen, I got heart. Yeah, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna do this. This is why I do it. Whereas some people, when you get to like sometimes when you're young, you don't experience that. You want to give up. You don't want it. You just it's not there for you.
Yeah.
Whereas when you develop into
and if you fail, it's everyone else's fault, isn't it?
That's what I feel like the difference is there as well. Heart, just showing that eagerness to want to come back.
Yeah. Yusuf, you know when you were speaking about Umar when he was Khalifa, there was one story that I was really like, it really resonated with me. Was there was a woman who was in I don't know if it was, sorry, not that, there was a story where one of the Roman emperors, he wanted to meet Umar, and he was advised, all of his advisors told him to like put on like, really like expensive clothes, like gold and gold gold clothes, and like the jewelry
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff. And he was ready to put that on, and then he started thinking, and he was thinking about how he came to success, and how he became Khalifa, and what he achieved as a Khalifa.
SubhanAllah.
And he changed back to his rags, and his advisor started saying, "Ya Umar, why are you wearing your rags?" and stuff like that. And he was saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he made me successful while I was wearing rags. I was Khalifa when I was wearing these rags, and I won these battles while I was wearing these rags. So for me to meet the Roman emperor wearing clothes that I've never been successful in is wrong. And I think that's one big,
Yeah.
that's quite a huge indicator of masculinity for me, because it shows you're grateful for what you have, and you don't change, you don't, like, I'm not saying like don't wear, like, wearing expensive clothes and stuff, that's fine, but
Yeah.
like you kind of need to appreciate where you've come from, if that makes sense. And a
Yeah.
true
Like
man's
those
aware of that, and
stories
he
of like
embraces
Umar
that.
and the Sahaba. If you read those stories of true men, you'll see what a man is,
Yeah,
and you'll see how it's not an easy
yeah,
thing to be a real man. It
it's
takes
not
work,
the
it
same.
takes effort, because
Yeah,
it's something which is
yeah,
highly commendable. Yeah,
yeah. You don't hit a certain age and you're a
it's not
man now.
easily gained.
Yeah,
You won't get it at the gym or
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you won't get, you don't become a man by benching D.
Come on, I
So
want to say
yeah,
something.
but yeah, I'll let,
Basically,
yeah, go for it.
when you were talking about advisors, is basically, obviously, as men, you have to be good advisors to other people. You have to make sure you give good advice, because when you look at what a man does, they give advice to young people, they give advice to
Yeah,
the elderly, they give advice to their women.
100%.
And I look at a story from the Prophet, and there was this. I've probably told this story before to Carmen. There was this lady, and she, at the time of the Prophet, she committed zina. So she came to the Prophet and she
Yeah.
said, "Ya Rasulullah, I've committed zina, and what
Mm-hmm.
will happen to me? Will I be forgiven, or what will happen to me?" The Prophet ignored her, and she says it again, like, "Ya Rasulullah, what do I do?" And the Prophet ignores her. And the third time,
Yes.
she says to the Prophet, like, "What do I do?" He says, "Listen, do not come to me now, while do not come to me now and expose your sins. Indeed, ask Allah for forgiveness, and He will indeed forgive you." So that's what I feel like, when a woman, man, elderly are in a position of need and want, and we reference back to a Muslim man, you have to advise them. What has the Prophet said about this? What has the Quran said about this? And really let their heart. So if you're in a need of depression, or if you're in need of forgiveness, ask Allah for forgiveness. Indeed, Allah is the most forgiving and the most merciful. And that's why I feel
Yeah.
like men as advisors have to play their part in that, because touching the point where you said that men have to be a little bit considerate. For me, that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it depends on confidence, like Idris was saying, whether you're confident or not, or you might not still be confident. But you have to show that willingness. Listen, let me advise people, let me help people, and that's where something I feel like a man shows his qualities and shows his
yeah,
braveness.
and you won't take advantage of that. When someone
Mm-hmm.
comes to you with telling you their mistake or exposing themselves, you won't take advantage of that and try and belittle them, which is often happens.
Instead, they try and help you find the solution. True man.
I think it's just time and place for stuff that, for example, yeah. Let's say like for example, a man needs to have the balance of being caring, kind, compassionate, as well as having that sense of ruthlessness, like when he needs to be.
Yeah.
But then a lot of the times people don't have that balance. I feel a man needs to have that balance between the caring, so the caring, the kindness, the just them caring features, and then also the
not being run over.
being yeah.
Carmel, I've got a question for you. Basically,
go on.
so we've been talking about compassionate, we've been talking about ruthlessness, we've been talking about fierce. Let's go to the opposite. Sometimes in the modern days, men can be allowed to feel emotionless, have feelings, cry whenever they want.
Okay.
So what is your take on emotion?
Okay.
And what is your emotion of men? And what do you think that in your ideal situation should a man do when he has that feelings?
For me, I think it's similar to what Idris was saying about timing. You know, like you have this phenomenon of like a man never cries. You get me? Is like a man should always be like a brute. He shouldn't show his emotions. He should like grunt at everything, and he should like use force to resolve a situation. I kind of disagree with that for me because like the Prophet ﷺ didn't do that. He didn't use force he was never an aggressor. He was never a person who used force to get where he needs to be. You get me? So for me, showing your emotions
it's how you do it, isn't it?
It's always a good and bad. It's not just for men, for women as well. It's how you do it. If you're just sat here crying, looking for sympathy, what do you get? That's not, you know what I mean? Anyone who does that. Now, if you're, it's like you're not, you can't. If you're crying about something, for example, you lost someone, that doesn't make you less of a man. That's human. That's people will react like that. You know what I mean? But it's what you do. It's what you do with it. You know what I mean? Like you can. Like it's not. It doesn't make you. In my opinion, it doesn't make you less of a man to cry, to show your emotions. It doesn't. But it's what you do afterwards. It's how you use that to motivate yourself. Like I've had conversations where people perceive someone who cries and someone who shows their emotions very visibly as someone who's mentally unstable. It's exactly the opposite. If anything, they're more in tune with themselves as a person, and they're not kind of trying to like make themselves look like something they're not. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the time nowadays, it's like
that's dangerous
you're kind of masking your
emotions. It'll come out as depression, anxiety. It'll come out as some way in the way you don't want it to come out.
Exactly. So if you're kind of masking your emotions and that, and then you end up, becoming depressed, and you're very, you live life like they say, with a glass half empty. Is that making you a man now? Exactly. Is that making you more of a man than someone who's optimistic and always?
Let me say something. Basically, just quick. Basically, you have people like, for example, when it comes to men and they cry, or when it comes to certain men, you have certain people, for example, oh no, don't worry, he can do this, he can do that, he can do this, he can do that. It's fine, don't worry. Thing is, I always realize that there has to be a boundary with these things, and that's what. And for me, that's why I feel like Islam comes in. That's what I feel like, because Islam sets boundaries on certain things. Listen, a man is a man. A man has things that he can do. A man has the ability to do things. Don't therefore be associating a man with different things that a man cannot do. Or if, for example, if he does it, then it's considered okay. Because for me, like you have to set boundaries. Like for example, when people talk about being gay in Islam, for me, there's a boundary to that. Oh, don't worry, brother. It's okay. He can do this. He's feeling thoughts. Brother, you have to realize, that there's a reason why Allah has forbid things. Because Allah knows more than we do.
Yeah.
The omnipotent, the most powerful, omniscient, the most knowledgeable. That's what you have to know. And for me, when I feel like when it comes to a man, when they're showing emotions, yes, show your emotions, and it's part of life. But for me, show your emotions to Allah. Make dua, Ya Allah, please forgive me. Ya Allah, if I'm in a bad state, please make my state better. That's what I feel like. For me, when I reference it, I reference this as being a Muslim. Because for me, when you are a Muslim and you're sad, there's some like elders and other people that say, oh yeah, brother, you shouldn't show this and you shouldn't show these emotions. No, it's fine to show emotions, but for me, You have to show your emotions to Allah, because indeed Allah is the most merciful, and indeed Allah is the most forgiving. Because I said it, you cannot please people. No matter what you do, what you show, if you're going through something bad, people might not take it as something good. So therefore, turn to Allah while you are still alive in this world. Ask for forgiveness, and if you are in a state where you're feeling depressed or sad, ask for forgiveness, and Allah will surely forgive you. And that's what I feel like it's need to be. Like, there was this sister, and she was an hour from committing suicide, and she said that she was going to end her life, and then she got a notification from Muslim Pro to read Surah Baqarah. And in Surah Baqarah, there came a verse where it said, seek help in patience and prayer, and truly it's hard for this humble-minded. So therefore, if you're a man and you're going through certain things and you're showing emotion, do not show your emotion to other people. Like I told you about the Prophet and the girl and the lady who committed zina. Do not show your emotions to Allah. Do not show your emotions to other people. Only show your emotions to Allah, because indeed Allah is the only one that can relieve you from that situation. And I ask that Allah, if any brothers and sisters are going through it, I ask that Allah grants you a better situation than what you are in.
Yeah, as Cameron said, it's about balance and timing. So like, you see, like the Prophet Muhammad SAW, when someone's spitting in his face, he's not crying over there. He's not making a big deal. But when his son dies, then he cries. So it's about to what extent you show emotions and about what you show emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel, as Hashim said, I feel the first place you should go to whenever you feel any type of emotion is the prayer mat, and then to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I feel that's the first place you should go to. But then I also feel, some, like, if you feel emotion, the other people you can go to is family. I feel like showing any emotion to family, I feel, is fine, because they're your family for a reason. I feel, for example, your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, when you're married, even your wife. I feel there are people there to help you, but it's also to a certain extent, like, there's some, like, for example, there's some, like, as Garmin said, the balance, like, there's some stuff that's, like, I feel acceptable to get emotional about, but there's some stuff that people nowadays get emotional about that they shouldn't. Snowflakes nowadays,
That's Snowflake
they get
Culture.
offended due to such little things, and then it triggers them off. And
that's the thing, man.
I just feel that as Garmin said, it's just about finding the balance, essentially. And that's with everything as well. It's finding the balance.
Yeah, it is about balance, because you talked about Snowflake Culture, and this is exactly leading to what Yusuf said about the Prophet ﷺ. Like, if we look at half the stuff that we get angry about nowadays compared to what they went through, subhanallah, like, we're going through nothing. Like, Hashim, I swear you were speaking to us earlier about off the podcast about what the Prophet ﷺ went and the Sahaba went through early when they were like preaching, and it was quite a lot compared to what we're going through now. Is like a
for
way
me,
worse.
What the Prophet and his companions went through was absolutely, like, it's memorized. You cannot imagine it. For me, you can't picture what they've gone through. They were there preaching, and they were suffering because they had people who were ignorant, who have for years, their forefathers have been worshipping idols, and they got to a point where someone, the Prophet ﷺ, who was claiming that he was a messenger of God, and they didn't take that. They took that as an offense. They took that as something which is absolutely blasphemous and absolutely that should be punished. And therefore the prophet and his companions they suffered by this, because they got to a point where they were in the most terrible times of the early ages of Islam, where it's terrible times. Daughters were getting buried alive. You didn't have, obviously, men and women and stuff, and men and women were considered way more less than men are. Even a dog had more rights than other men. And therefore, when the Prophet talked about these certain things like slaves, the Prophet taught that men and women are equal, and they laughed. They thought, what's this on he's on about? Because they came from such a stage where they had to be, their heads were not they didn't know what it was, and therefore the prophet came to say that men and women are equal, slaves should all be freed, and shouldn't live a oppressive life. You shouldn't oppress people, neither you should be oppressed. The poor and the rich should be considered the same, and therefore that's why I feel like Islam is a religion that teaches that regardless if you're poor or rich, or if you're woman or man, or if you're black or white or brown, they're all the same people, and indeed Allah is the one that judges you at the end of the day for your sins. So therefore the Prophet and his companions, when they went through these sort of things, as role models, we should think to ourselves, listen, the Prophet at those times went through so much, but therefore we should be grateful and humbled by the fact that we haven't been tested by that much. I always reference to Surah Yusuf, when Prophet Yusuf, his brothers turned against him. He was in a well. He was very young, 13, age range between 8 and 13 years old. He didn't know nothing. Couldn't go back home because they were going to kill him. What did he do? He trusted Allah. He put his faith and he put his trust on Allah, and Allah indeed made his situation better, and therefore made him a successful person, and made his dream come true and be able to perform all these miracles and to spread the message to worship one God.
So we're gonna move on now to talk. We've kind of discussed it a bit so far already. And it's the idea of toxic masculinity. Before I come to you brothers, I'm just gonna quickly give you a few statistics. And this is information from the Men's Project. They did a poll about perceived societal expectations of young men. 69% think society expects men to act strong. 60% fight back when pushed, and 56% say no to they'll never say no to sexual intercourse, and 35% use violence to get respect. So what are your thoughts about this?
What was the one about sexual intercourse?
I did. 56% never say no, so they embrace the idea of always stuff like that.
Now, for me, in terms of sexual stuff, obviously in Islam, actually, Yusuf, you go on. It's fine.
I mean,
you go.
okay.
You go, Yusuf.
So obviously, that's the easy stuff. That's if you're gonna take that as being a man, then that's just easier. It's as easy as wearing a cloak. But if you want to be a real man, you have to work on yourself from the inside.
Yeah, that's fine.
And people don't want to do that. People don't want to refine their character, control their anger, be like the real men, as like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the companions. And so they resort to these superficial things from movies, social media, TV shows, which don't gain you respect. I mean, if you try it, it won't give you respect anywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And the respect it gains you, if it ever does, is from the wrong crowd. Idris, how would you define toxic masculinity in your opinion?
I would say it's so masking your emotions. So if you feel one type of emotion, to hide it with another set of emotions, and to be a hypocrite, because you're being toxic to yourself. Because if you suppress something, and then after a while, that thing will come out in an ugly way, and it will come out in an ugly way. So by doing that, you're not only affecting yourself, but you're going to affect people around you, and that's not what a man does. They're supposed to protect people around them, whereas when you're out here suppressing your emotions because of pride or just something like that, I think when people suppress their emotions, I don't know, I think part of reason could be arrogance. And
you think it's insecurity as
yeah,
well?
I think it could be that as well, because people don't want people to look down on them for having a certain type of emotion, because
Yeah.
it's like it sets how you're supposed to be from before you're born.
Yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
cultural norms, isn't
And
it?
it's like, if you act outside of this, then we're gonna look down upon you. We're gonna look at you differently.
Yeah.
And it's like there's with different cultures, like if you act out of what they want or what they expect of you, you're seen as different, or you're seen as a girl. Yeah.
Inferior.
Yeah, can I touch back on my point?
Yeah.
Man, family thinking.
He's back.
Blood.
He's back.
Yeah, basically.
He's back, ladies and
now,
gentlemen.
when you were talking about sexual stuff, and in terms of man and a woman, obviously a man's likely to commit sexual intercourse more than a woman. Thing is, that for me, obviously in terms of sexual intercourse, like haram stuff, for me, like a man will always have that lust for women. It will always be like that,
Drive.
Regardless.
Yeah,
when you get to a stage where you're 18 onwards or 18 there, you start to get lust for women, because that's just how it is. And even in Islam,
I think it's younger.
Huh?
People out here, like
younger, man.
Like some people
especially
have
nowadays,
that at like 11, 12, whatever. That's actually true as well.
It's true, man.
I bet like Islamic leader, bro.
Yeah.
Like, Islamically, yeah, when you're allowed to. Yeah.
Like when you're allowed to.
Because obviously, in terms of
married,
if it wasn't Islamic, brothers, you have brothers having kids at 12. You have brothers have kids. You know what I mean? It's mad at you. And basically, so when you get to a stage where you're where you start to get 18 or something, and you have that agenda, that the Quran confirms that. Like obviously, men and women are made to be together. A man is always gonna be fixed to a woman. That's how it is. That's just how we've been created. We always need in the presence of women, because that's how we are. So for example, that stat, I'm not surprised about that stat, because that's, for me, it's just how it is. It's just how men have always had this agenda that they need to be with women. They have to have women. They need like sexual desires and stuff. For me, that's just how men are. Whereas women, sometimes you get certain women, they're a lot opposite, where they want to keep it conservative, and they want to do it whilst, for example, religious people, they want to do it when they're married and stuff. And I look at it from that way.
Thing is, you have to be careful, Hashim, because you can say about the religious, like people who are more religious, more pious. But for me, I think that's kind of where it's kind of more of a test, because people who especially because of like the influence of like pornography and stuff in society nowadays, it's more prevalent. And if you actually look, like the Prophet ﷺ, he said himself that the biggest test for men is women. You know what I mean? So now when people commit zina and stuff, and these sort of haram things, and they question, oh, why did this happen? It's a test. It's part of the test, isn't it? You get me? So we have to kind of be careful about that. And just because you're, people who are your general person who's more, prays 5 times a day, that sort of stuff, they can fall into that trap as well. It can apply to anyone.
When I said women, in terms of like considerate and religious things, obviously you have certain Christian people. They obviously get married. They have sexual intercourse after marriage, and obviously Muslims, you have to. It's bound that you have to. It's after marriage as well, and obviously some religions as well, and therefore that's why I feel like religions that plays a key part in the boundaries, because they put boundaries that, listen, don't commit zina, don't commit don't watch pornography, don't commit don't like harm yourself. That's the thing that I feel like Islam helps you and helps people when it comes to sexual things, because don't hurt yourself, don't hurt any other people, don't cause harm like to yourself and your body when it comes to these sort of things, because the Prophet said about diseases when it comes to like sexual stuff, because there's diseases involved, and that will be common. Like I think there was this prophecy which the prophet predicted that people will be committing sexual intercourse like on the streets, and that's a prediction. And you look at today's society, there's people that do it on the streets. There's people that do it whenever they want. So you have to look at it as when it comes to a religious perspective, you got to follow those guidelines. Obviously, yes, brothers, you will have these certain sexual desires and agendas towards women. Islam is not saying, oh yeah, don't have those. But you have to. The Prophet Yusuf, when I come to the story where Zuleika, the Aziz's wife, she had an agenda towards him, a desire towards him. But the thing is, he had that desire. It actually mentioned he has that desire, but Allah gave him evidence to why you shouldn't do it, and therefore that shows why even more he's a man, because the fact that you can do something which a man 99 times out of 10, if there's a woman there, a pretty woman or a woman that you find attractive, and saying listen, and has that desire towards you and wants you to do it, 99 out of 100 people would have done it, because that you just have that agenda towards it. Whereas the Prophet Yusuf, subhanallah, that shows why he's one of the best of mankind, because you have that
control,
temperament to know that this is right and this is wrong. You know what I mean? Control. Because obviously there is life as a test. You will get tested with certain things. Like I said to Kamil, sometimes you won't get temptation by alcohol. You won't get temptation by drugs. You won't get temptation by other things. Sometimes it will be women, because that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everyone has a different temptation. And for me, when it comes to most of the things that brothers go through, it does tend to be women, because you cannot live without women and your desires go with women. So you just have to make. Yeah.
I think what Idris said,
behind every great
arrogance, that's that's one of the root causes of toxic masculinity. You know, my desires, my wants, and that's going to lead to destruction in this life and the next. If you be like Ozymandias, you know. Yeah, and even like if you probably heard.
Yes, GCSEs.
You probably heard like from the hadith.
Nah, but it's true.
Whoever has pride in his heart shall enter paradise. So it won't work in both lives. Arrogance.
One thing is, a man, as everyone was saying about control, that's what a man has, control, and that a boy doesn't, a man does, like, has that control.
A boy can learn to have control, but till he becomes a man, there's not that same.
They're talking about sexual desires, like, to
real
have
strength.
That control is very, like, you need to be strong, like, you need to be strong.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Real strength. This is real strength.
And that's the man.
Yeah, I think I think, we talk about sexual desires and stuff, and I think it's a big part of society.
Especially as you can access it through
everywhere you go.
No.
Bro, all these TV shows have it. Unfortunately, wherever you look, all these billboards, what have they got? They have women wearing certain clothes. Yusuf always speaks to us about, how like news channels, for example, who's giving the news chance to be a pretty woman, essentially. So it's always around us. This is why it's a big test nowadays.
Definitely, it's going to be hard for youth, because it's so easy to access, and then when you have that childish
it's going to be hard for us, man.
Like, it's hard to,
start experimenting and stuff.
You can legit type anything on Google and it will come up. Anything. No restrictions, nothing, because that's just how advanced.
And I think you're right about social media as well, Idris, and Google and stuff, because if you look nowadays, we discussed it earlier actually about role models, and I think Hashim talked about Umar ibn Khattab and the Sahaba as great role models, but I think if you look at society nowadays, typically people our age, the role models that we have aren't going to help us. If your role model is a rapper or a hip hop artist or whatever, then that's not going to help you in this life or the next.
It's just a dream. As having them as role models, you're just selling yourself a dream. You're going to live the rest of your life.
Subhanallah.
And that's like I was saying, That's why I feel like family gets involved, because when you are a boy, teenage years, you start to get away from family. You start to get to the point where you start to drift away, and that's where you start to commit these certain things that you shouldn't commit, because you're going away from the people who you need to care about. That's why I feel like I said, experience is key. So talking to people, associating with people, because for example, when you're a boy to when you're a man goes through things that you may need, that you might be going through now. Therefore, you need them sort of advice and guidance towards what you can do about these sort of things. So, for example, like I told you, for example, if you're in school, or if you're in A levels, or if you're in university, and you're a man, you've been through certain things, and there's a boy who's going through it right now, you can advise them on it.
Yeah.
And that's where, therefore, they can be better men than you. It's all about advice. It's all about knowledge, and just making sure what
one thing to know is that
is relevant
it's
to
not
other
easy.
people.
It's a struggle.
Yes, brother. This life is a test, and that's the reason why we're being put on this earth. And for me, the reason why we've been put on this earth is to purely serve Allah. And for me, if you do not serve Allah and you do not, you obviously will go through tests. But if you do not ask Allah for forgiveness, that's why Allah is the most merciful and the most forgiving. Because when you commit these sins and when you do these sort of things, Allah is there for you to ask for forgiveness. And that's why I feel like you have to reflect upon that.
And keep
you
trying.
have to show it all the time. Because we're humans, we commit sins. That's what we do. That's part of life.
It's in our nature.
It's in our nature. That's what we need to do, and that's why you have to turn to Allah and ask for forgiveness, because Allah will surely forgive you. Like Kamil was saying, Yusuf was saying, I think it was Yusuf or Kamil was saying to me, that it can take you 1,000, 2,000 steps you can take away from your Lord, but you can take one step to Allah and He'll come around to you.
Yeah.
And if you call upon Allah, He will respond. And that's why I feel like it's there.
Yeah.
And also, yes, this is what it is. Allah says, if you remember me, I remember you. So if you remember me all the time, you ask me for forgiveness, you read Quran, you pray all the time, 5 times a day, Allah will remember you, and your situation will change. You can ask all these brothers, Idris,
100%.
Yusuf,
100%.
anyone who's not like going through stuff. You can ask Kamil, Yusuf, Idris, me. Once you get to that point where you remember Allah and you worship Allah all the time, you will get to that point where your life changes drastically. And these brothers can tell you, these brothers can admit it to you.
Your sorrows, like all your problems, for me, it just disperses when you're connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, it's like your problems are being shared with Him. So, and it's like He's the one who's gonna put you through the problem. So He's the one who's gonna get you out. As long as you're connected towards Him, to Him, then He will be the one to get you out. So it just puts that comfort and that ease throughout your hardships, in my opinion, for me.
Yeah, and like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always says, He says that He won't test you beyond your limits. So you can overcome these struggles, you know. They're within your capabilities to overcome them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also, Allah gives His strongest battles to His strongest soldiers. You should be blessed that you've been tested the most, because that means that Allah loves you. Allah wants you to go through this hardship in order for there to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And what's that light at the end of the tunnel?
You do martial arts. If you're white belt, you get the easy test. But if you're black belt, you get like the harder test. That's how I think of it. Yeah, but this is the real grind, isn't it?
Yeah.
The real hustle.
Yeah. That's it, man.
Inshallah.
It earns you the big bucks now and in the next life, inshallah. I think that's a good place to end on this edition of the Wahda podcast. Mashallah, it's the longest we've gone
on our podcast.
A lot to talk about, alhamdulillah. But there's still a lot. There's always a lot, inshallah. We'll come back to these topics. You can check this podcast out on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Please check out our Instagram page, where alhamdulillah now we're starting to post a bit more, get a bit more content, quotes, stuff like that. Alhamdulillah. But check it out. Please follow the account, share it, please. So inshallah we can grow. We're at the early stages as Wahda, as an organization. So it will do us the greatest. May Allah bless you all. If you're able to help us sharing the account, sharing the podcast, please check out the podcast, subscribe to the channel.
I just want to say,
anything
the
to our
brothers that are
brothers?
listening, brothers and sisters who are listening, may Allah grant you the highest rank in Jannah. May He forgive you all for your sins. And obviously it's Ramadan in a couple of weeks' time. So therefore, we will be observing fasting. So therefore, may Allah forgive all your sins and protect you, brothers and sisters.
Jazakallah, Sheikh. So yeah, Jazakallah, brothers and sisters. Till next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.